teachers! Today we are going to be talking about middle school and high school field trips and what you should bring as the teacher. First of all, welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, this is where we make educational videos for the classroom and we share tips and tricks for teachers. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe below. Now let's get started. If you are taking your middle school or high school students on a field trip, it's important to be prepared. So the first thing that you should bring on your field trip is a backpack. So sometimes I bring like a drawstring bag, kind of like this one. If it's gonna be like a short trip, maybe a few hours, then you don't really need as much. So I usually bring a drawstring bag. But if you are going on a longer field trip, then you might want to bring a heavy duty backpack like this one. So let's take a look at some of the things that I typically bring on a field trip. So number one thing to bring should be your first aid kit. So inside my first aid kit, I have gauze, band-aids, wipes and stuff like that. So just basic stuff. You never know what's gonna happen, especially when you have a lot of middle schoolers with you. So make sure you bring some sort of first aid kit. Sometimes the school will provide you with one. I have been in a school where they gave me like a small first aid kit to take just for field trips. If you have one for your classroom, maybe you could bring something from that. So I typically put that in my front pocket of my backpack, just so that it's easily accessible and so that I can grab it if I need it really quick. Next thing to bring is hand sanitizer. We all understand the dangerous realm of germs. So it's good to bring some hand sanitizer, especially again with those middle schoolers, especially if you're gonna have some sort of lunch or meal with your students, just so you can kind of squirt a little bit in each hand. So hand sanitizer. Next thing I like to bring is some Advil. You never know. You might wake up that morning and you kind of have a headache, but you can't really call it off, so you just kind of take some Advil, especially for the bus rides. That's very helpful for that. Next thing, tissues. You never know again, like sometimes allergies happen, sometimes a student needs one, so it's a good thing to have. You don't want that everywhere, so you just make sure you bring some tissues. Okay, next thing I like to bring is a folder with all kinds of materials in there that we're going to need for the field trip. First of all, typically I'll bring, like, if they have to sign permission forms or something like that, I'll bring that with me. If there's like medical sheets that you need to bring, like if there's allergies and stuff like that, that's a good thing to bring as well. I also think it's important, if you have it, this was from my field trip I took with my high schoolers to Congaree National Park. But if you've been there before and you got like a map of some sort, sometimes that's helpful just so you can kind of tell where you're going. I also have like this like kind of self-guided boardwalk tour guide. So you can kind of read through that. You can give it to your students to read if they want to kind of learn about where they're going to be. I also think it's very important, whether you're middle school or high school, to have kind of a backup activity, just because you never know what's gonna happen. We had some rangers that came and led us on this like tour, and it took like 15 minutes for the tour, and then they kind of just set us loose. So it's good to think through that and kind of have an activity ready to go if you need that. So all the national parks have this junior ranger program, so I just printed off some of those activities. A lot of them can be more for like elementary level, but there are some activities that could be suited for middle and high school. I printed off one for each of the students, so I told them to kind of work through that as we go along, and after the whole ranger program, they worked through these and they got their junior ranger badges. So that was pretty cool. Another activity that I like to do, especially with high school students, is doing a photo scavenger hunt. So I had a list of different things that I had seen on the website about Congaree, and I told them that they needed to take a photo of each of those things, and then they would send those to me via Google Classroom, and then I could show them to the class the next day. I usually would take it for a grade too, just participation grade, but it's a kind of another way for them to like kind of be interactive and kind of look out for the different things that we talked about. Another important thing to bring is if you have a confirmation email, like if you're taking a tour or you have like passes or something that's like digital, it's good to print that off just so you have a physical copy to hand to whoever you're taking the tour with. And I also recommend printing off the directions to get there. I don't think I have ever had to be the driver for a field trip before, but I know that some teachers have. And so if you don't really quite know where you're going, sometimes you might get lost. Like Congaree is literally in the middle of nowhere. So our phones kind of went off for a little bit and we couldn't like get a signal, so we weren't exactly sure where we were going. Just for a little part of it, we ended up figuring it out. But it's a good thing to have the printed directions just so you can get there if you need to. Another thing to bring, make sure that you have, is your keys, first of all, and also your school ID. You want to make sure that you can identify yourself when you get there, and you can talk to the rangers or whoever's leading your program, and you can tell them who you are. Also, if you have long hair, make sure you bring a hair tie. That has saved my life many times. Make sure you do that. I also bring my wallet. And if they give you like a school credit card or something, some way to purchase things, it's good to bring that as well. Again, just in case if you have to fill up for gas, like lunches and stuff like that, then it's good to have that as well. Another obvious thing, water bottle. Okay, I usually bring my like refillable water bottle, but hydrate or dehydrate. So make sure you encourage your students to bring theirs as well. Something else important, chapstick. Sometimes you need it and your lips just get all chapped and you don't want the day to be ruined because of that. So make sure you bring some chapstick. Another important thing specifically for middle and high school, you're gonna have some ladies with you and you never know what time of the month it's gonna be. So make sure you bring a pad, maybe two. That actually happened to me once. I had a student that we were in the classroom and she really needed one and she didn't have one with her. And it can be scary, especially for middle schoolers if it's their first one. So make sure that you bring a pad so they're covered, they have something that if they need it. If you're going to be outside, make sure you bring some sunscreen and some bug spray. Last thing you want to happen is to get a sunburn at the end of the day, not feeling very good. So make sure you bring some sunscreen and bug spray if you're going to be outside. Also with that, I do like to wear a hat, so just to keep the sun out of my eyes and stuff like that. You could bring sunglasses as well to help you with that, but some things just to think about if you're going to be outside. Also, an important thing to think about with that is the weather. Make sure you're looking ahead of time, seeing what the weather's going to be like. If it's supposed to be really cold, then you'll probably want to bring your coat or hats, gloves, stuff like that. If it's supposed to rain, you'll want to bring your umbrella or a rain jacket. It may depend. I mean, if you're just going to be inside all day, don't really have to think about that. But good thing to think about if you're going to be outside. I know when we went to Congaree, it can be super hot, super muggy, and bugs can be everywhere. Like it can be really kind of gross. But we decided to go in February when it wasn't as bad. So kind of think about that too, like just the time of year and stuff, and what you should bring during that time of year to the place that you were going. Last thing in my backpack, I just always bring a pencil or pen just so you've got it with you just in case you need to write something down. And you have that whole packet of like papers and stuff. Maybe you hear something interesting that you want to talk about in class. I always bring a pencil or pen for that sort of thing. Another important thing to think about is what you're going to wear. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but it's really important for you to think through that. It's really great to look nice, but when you're on a field trip, it's very good to be comfortable too. So I would encourage you to talk to your supervisor or talk to other teachers maybe who have taken their students on a field trip and see kind of what the policy is, because you may like have to look professional. I mean, you are representing your school, so you want to look nice, but it's also good if you're going to be out somewhere that you wear something comfortable too. Typically I'll wear like jeans or like nicer sweatpants if we're gonna be out. I took students on like a 6th grade camp field trip, and like on a field trip like that I kind of just like wore sweatpants the whole time. But I also took my students to see the high school play before, and we had to travel to the other building, like the high school building. So I guess you could call that a field trip. It's kind of a field trip. But for something like that, like, you want to look nice. So I would just wear what I normally wore to school that week. So ultimately, it's good to think ahead, think about where you're going. If you're going to be outside, then you'll probably need different things than what you'll need if you're going inside. If it's more of an educational sort of trip, then you'll want to bring stuff for that. But if it's more of like kind of a fun, like reward type of trip, then you might bring some different stuff for that. So just kind of think through some of those things, think through the weather, what that will be like. Even if it's raining and you're supposed to be inside all day, it still wouldn't hurt to like bring a rain jacket or an umbrella, because you probably will be going from the bus to the place that you're going. Thank you so much for watching. If you have taken your students on a field trip and there was something maybe you forgot, or maybe there was something that I didn't talk about that you think is super important, then make sure you write that in the comments below. Have a great day.